When you're going from slope-intercept to standard form, I'll admit there's a few more steps involved. But it's not too complicated if you think about what you want. What do I want my answer to look like? Let's think about that for a minute before we jump in. Standard form. There will be some number times x and some number times y, and it will be equal to another number. Okay? So that's what your final answer will look like. Now, let's talk about what needs to happen in order to make it look this way. The first thing that you want to do is get rid of any fractions. No fractions. When you're in slope-intercept form, the slope can be a fraction. And it's not really that big of a deal because slope is rise over run. So the fraction makes sense. But in standard form, we're not dealing with slope anymore, and fractions just give us a humongous headache. So the first thing you want to do is multiply by the denominator to get rid of any fractions. The second thing you're going to want to do is get x and y together. Move them to the same side. Our little chant even goes x and y on the same side. So get them together. Get them both on the left. The third thing you want to do is put them in what I call alpha order. That means they're both on the left and x comes first, then y. Because in alphabetical order, it's x, y, z. So we want x to be in the front. So when you line them up, make sure you put x in the front. Last, but certainly not least, x can have a number out front. That's fine. But you always want to make sure that you lead with a positive. Lead with a positive number. So if your first number, the number in front of x, is negative, divide by -1. Divide everything by -1 so that your first term is positive, because that's the most important one. Kind of like it's most important that your first impression be a positive impression. So the first term of this standard form, we want it to be a positive one. Now let's take a look at these 4 steps in action. Looking at number 51, the first thing I see is my slope is a fraction. Surprise, surprise. I want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is multiply this whole side by the denominator, which is 2. And of course, if I do it on the right, I have to do it on the left as well. So I'm going to multiply 2 times y. On the left, no problem. This just becomes 2y. And what does it equal? Well, remember, we're actually going to take this 2 and we are going to distribute it to both of these terms. So you're going to be multiplying by 2 twice. When you multiply this fraction by 2, the 2's will cancel. That means your denominator will be gone, and you're left with 7x. When you multiply this -4 by 2, you'll have -8. Awesome. Our fractions are gone, and this is looking better already. Now, step 2. I want to move this x. As of right now, y is on the left and x is on the right. I don't like that. I want x and y on the same side. So I'm going to take this whole term, even the number attached, and it's a positive 7x, so I'm going to do -7x. And I'm going to move it over here. Now, did you see how I set that up? I did not line this up directly under the y because I know I'm not going to connect them or combine them in any way. This is a y term. This is an x term. They can't combine. And I know that I want them in alphabetical order with the x first. So I went ahead and put the x a little bit further to the left. Now watch what happens when I go ahead and combine these 2 lines together. I'll end up with -7x plus 2y equals, these cancel, and I just have -8. Already it's starting to look more and more like standard form. X and y are on the same side. They're even in alphabetical order. The only problem that I have left to deal with is the fact that I want to lead with a positive, and right now this is a negative. It's easy to change the sign if I just divide by -1. Make sure to do that to all three terms. So this negative will cancel, leaving me with 7x. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. 2 divided by 1 is 2, and the y comes along. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 8 divided by 1 is 8. So here is my final standard form. 7x minus 2y equals 8. Why don't you give the next one a try? See if you can do these 4 steps on your own. All right, we're going to go through them together just to make sure that you are on the right track. Fraction. Let's multiply by the denominator. Multiply both sides by the denominator. So this becomes 2y, and I'm going to distribute this 2 to both terms. So I'm going to multiply twice. When I multiply this fraction by 2, it'll get rid of my denominator. That was the whole point. And I'll be left with negative 1x. When I multiply negative 1 by 2, it'll give me negative 2. So far, so good. I'm getting closer. No more fractions. Now, I want to move this entire x term over the equal sign. So I'm going to add 1x this time. Add 1x. Notice I lined it up all the way to the left because I want this x to be first. Then plus 2y equals, these will cancel, and I'm left with negative 2. Notice I did not write the 1 in front of the x because anything times 1 is just itself. So I can just write x, and that's okay. Now I want to make sure I'm leading with a positive. And if I look, my coefficient for x is positive. So I don't have to divide by -1. That's taken care of for me. And I'm done. How'd you do? Were you able to get it? I bet you were. Let's try another one together. Number 53. Get rid of the fraction first. How do we do that? We multiply by the denominator. So if I multiply by 2 on this side, I got to multiply by 2 on this side. It gives me 2y on the left. When I distribute the 2, let's see, when I multiply the fraction, it'll get rid of my denominator and leave me with 3x. When I multiply 2 times -6, it'll give me -3. Now I want x and y together, so I'm going to move this whole x term to the other side, and I'm going to do that with the inverse operation of -3x, or -3x. I didn't line it up under my y because I can't actually combine them. Here they'll cancel, and I'm left with -3 on the right. Now, check to see that you're leading with a positive. We're not in this case. So we divide by -1. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and 3 divided by 1 is 3. Positive divided by negative is a negative. 2 divided by 1 is 2, and the y comes along. Equals negative divided by negative is a positive. 3 divided by 1 is 3. And there we go. I have my standard form. Why don't you try the next one on your own? Come back when you think you've got it to check your answer. How'd you do? Did you wind up with 2x plus 3y equals -12? I hope you did. Now, this whole process of converting from one form to another will become more natural, and you will get more comfortable with it, but it takes tons of practice. So I've left you 4 for part 1 and 4 for part 2 for you to practice on your own. Feel free to check out more videos if you need some more examples. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in class. Be sure to bring any questions with you so that I can help you when we're back together. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.